I bought Marc Brunet's art school to get good at art, but term one was a reality check. So I'll be breaking down the first 8 weeks or so of the course, from the small wins in the pen control that I got, to this perspective wall that I've been hitting lately, that eventually made me walk away. So stick around for the bonus, where I'll tell you if a beginner should actually buy the course or just continue self-studying, for now. Before we continue, if you're tired of feeling like the only one struggling, hit the subscribe button and let's figure it out together. So the first 2 weeks were focused almost entirely on those absolute basics, like pen control and understanding gesture. So coming from a place where my lines were basically noodles, this was a huge reality check for me. I spent hours practicing to draw a single line that looked good without hitting an undo button. But I did see some pretty large improvements here fairly quickly. It's amazing how much progress you make just by being intentional with your movement rather than kind of just moving, you know? I started to understand that gesture isn't about drawing a perfect person, it's about drawing the movement of a person. I didn't actually use Mark's specific method for this, I used Michael Hampton's, but the concept itself still clicked. My lines started to feel less like scratches and more like they had a direction to them. It was the first time I felt like I was actually drawing something with a level of control. Speaking of control, weeks 3 and 4 introduced character studies and the dreaded basics of perspective. This is where things started to get complicated for me. For the studies, we were basically told to copy what we saw, but there wasn't a lot of how to guidance for that. There was a pin in the Discord channel for it. But I felt like I was guessing the shapes and hoping they looked right. But then came the perspective, and I understood the concept of a horizon line and a vanishing point and all that on a technical level. I could draw the lines, but I had no idea what to do with them. It kind of felt like I was learning a math formula, but not knowing how to use the math formula to solve the real world problem. I couldn't grasp why these lines mattered for my character or how to actually rotate a shape in 3D space. I kind of felt like I was staring at a puzzle with a missing piece. My brain just wasn't clicking with the logic. It felt less like art and more like a geometry test that I was failing. Before we continue, though, I'm actually really thinking about setting up a Discord for our community here. I think my goal for the server is just going to be a place to share our bad sketches, that messy middle that I talk about, and help each other out. If I do end up making it, the link will be in the description, so come join our community so we can struggle together. And if you stick around, I'm about to explain my reason for quitting term one despite making such large strides in improvement in my art. So, weeks 5 and 6 shifted the focus towards gesture drawing combined with measurement tools. This was more about learning the standard proportions of a figure and using the heads to measure the height and width. And it was actually really helpful to have a ruler, so to say, to tell me why did my legs look too short, or why did that middle section of the belly look too long, or that kind of thing. It took some of the guesswork out of the process. However, we also started environment studies, which you'll see soon, which was a massive jump in difficulty for me. Trying to apply those confusing perspective rules I've been talking about to a room or a landscape felt like I was being thrown into the deep end of the pool without knowing how to swim. I was still struggling to see the volume in an arm, so how was I supposed to draw an entire street in 2 point perspective? It was a lot of information to process all at once. The gap between drawing a line and creating a world felt very wide. Speaking of environments, here those are. I feel like they turned out pretty alright, honestly, and mostly due to Clip Studio Paint's perspective ruler. But anyway, week 7 was supposed to be about having fun, and week 8 focused on more environments, and gesture drawing and line control and all that. But I'll be honest with you, I skipped them. I hit a wall here of boredom. I was getting really tired of that constant loop of here's line control, here's gesture drills, that term one provided me. It kind of felt like a chore I was doing that could have been reinforced in actual pieces rather than targeted focus practice. And when you're a beginner, your stamina is pretty low. I want to say like everything you're doing is not going to be great, so it's hard to look at. And I wanted to be building a webtoon at this point. I had invested many hours, but I was still drawing boxes and cylinders. So to give an analogy, it kind of felt like I was stuck in the tutorial area of a game long after I wanted to go out and explore the actual world of that game. And that boredom was dangerous for me because it was going to lead to burnout. I realized that if I kept forcing myself through these drills just to check that box, I was going to end up hating drawing, and that's not what I wanted. So I had to acknowledge that while these fundamentals are important and the way they were being presented was great, it wasn't working for me, and I needed a change of pace before I lost my spark for art entirely. I think this is the best piece I did in term one. But anyway, I eventually decided to take a step back and stop term one before I move on to term two eventually. The main reason was that the perspective lessons and all that made me realize I didn't actually understand 3D space at all. I felt like I was just faking my way through it with the perspective rulers and these assignments without actually learning any of the logic behind it. And since perspective is kind of the foundation of webtoon art for backgrounds, for those high and low camera angle shots and character placement and drama, I knew I couldn't move forward until I actually understood it. But beyond that, it also felt like the fundamentals we were practicing in term one were being treated as isolated drills rather than a skill to be reinforced by the rest of the course, as I believe they were meant to be. To me, the targeted practice is great and absolutely necessary, especially if you're a beginner. But after a certain point, it kind of feels pointless, you know? I'd rather learn perspective and reinforce my line control by trying to draw a room for my story than drawing 50 empty boxes. I wanted my learning to be more integrated and not segregated. So I'm taking a break from the official curriculum to find a way to learn these 3D concepts in a way that actually feels relevant to the story I want to tell. It's not going to be about quitting art. It's about finding a method that will help me grow right now. I will return to art school, and I'll be stronger. And I did start term two before I made this realization, so here's a self-portrait. Anyway, would I recommend Marc Brunet's term one for absolute beginners? Yeah, absolutely. I can't give it more of a raving review, but with an asterisk if you're like me. It is a fantastic structured way to see exactly what you're weak at. But my advice is if you're ever ready to move on from term one before the 8 weeks are up, just do it. Having watched the first lecture of term two, you will reinforce what you're learning as you're working. I think the most important thing in term one isn't mastering every single aspect. I think it's going to be about having fun and keeping your interest in art alive. So don't let yourself get trapped in that grinding things that make you want to put your pen down situation. Use the course as a guide, not a cage. Take the bits that work for you and leave the rest. It's your journey to design, and sometimes the best way to move forward is going to be taking a different path than the one that the pros have laid out for you. Hey guys, thanks for the experience. If you liked this video, then YouTube also thinks you like this one. And if you like my content, why not consider dropping a subscribe? Thank you, bye.